Barakatah Yahweh Shai, Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahweh Shai. All praises and all honor and all glory unto Yahweh, Ba'asham Yahweh Shai, Ba'asham Rakakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, who rule well. Salutations to the Akim and the Four Winds, preaching in truth and sincerity, risking their lives more now than ever, the hopeful elect, Shalom, right? So you got these, the American government basically going to war with Haiti, right? And, this is from previous time, before now, trying to set up the narrative, to go to war with them, right? So it says Haiti, UN sounds alarm over worsening gang violence across Port-au-Prince, right? So they're just setting up the narrative to say, basically, Satan transform himself into an angel of light. That's what they're using, as if they're going in and being the righteous to set up judgment, right? But they do unrighteous judgment and unrighteous decrees, right? And ultimately, they're there to set up the narrative of the NWO, right? That new world order, right? So these are the things that's being pushed, right?
Western media narrative that's unfolding, trying to push this cholera outbreak perhaps as a pretext for invasion. Joining us from Uncaptured Media is Dan Cohen. He is back to explain what the very latest is in Haiti. Dan, welcome back to the show.
Good to be with you.
So what is the latest? Over the weekend, we saw Antony Blinken up in Canada trying to drum up support for an invasion. Can you bring us the very latest on that side of it?
Yeah, so Blinken has been kind of striking out at the United Nations. The UN, basically, the U.S. and Mexico co-authored a second resolution in the United Nations Security Council calling for military intervention, and that seems to be gaining little support, particularly from Russia and China. So the U.S. is essentially seeking to deputize through the UN Security Council a UN member state to go in and carry out a sort of covert military intervention itself. So Blinken went to Canada over the weekend, and he came away basically empty-handed. He was hoping to get some kind of agreement from Trudeau to send in a covert military force, but all they agreed to is to send basically a fact-finding mission, which is ongoing at this point. So now it seems that the U.S. is looking to other kind of multilateral institutions. First and foremost, the Organization of American States, but because of the presence of progressive governments that do not want military intervention in their region, that seems to be falling on its face. And then you have CARICOM, which is where the kind of diplomatic battle is playing out right now. The Bahamas have said that they would send forces to invade Haiti, but there are other countries like St. Vincent and the Grenadines that are very staunchly anti-imperialist. So we just kind of have to see how that battle unfolds inside CARICOM and what the U.S. might do in the case that fails too.
So on the UN sanctions this week, so this is another big piece of the story. Of course, we saw the United Nations this week putting on further sanctions against Jimmy Cherizier, aka Barbecue, the opposition leader there, who's been blocking the fuel depot, the fuel port there. What is the very latest from the United Nations on these sanctions, and what were they hoping to accomplish? Him to release the fuel, and that this would all then magically go away?
Right, exactly. So the U.S. and UN thought, these sanctions will send some kind of strong message to compel Barbecue to release the blockade on the fuel terminal. but that clearly hasn't happened. I don't know how much impact these sanctions directly have on barbecue. It's not as if he's, traveling all over the world or has money in financial institutions overseas. And he's already been under U.S. Magnitsky sanctions since 2020. So I think these sanctions, the U.S. was hoping, were a prelude to military invasion of sorts, which is, of course, what they're gunning for now. And in the UN resolution that was passed, in negotiations, the clause calling for military intervention actually was struck. So again, the U.S. really just kind of falling, its plans not exactly working through multilateral institutions like the UN. But the blockade on the fuel terminal continues, and I think even more importantly, the fuel hikes that the IMF, or that the Ariel Henry government imposed on behalf of the IMF, which is essentially the U.S., those remain, and that's the real fundamental problem, not the fuel blockade. The fuel blockade just means, well, if none of the masses can get gas, why should, the ultra wealthy, why should the government, this de facto puppet prime minister, be allowed to stay in power?
And that's really the heart of this, right? The idea, of course, is that, as you pointed out here on the show before, that the Haitian people don't really care about the fuel blockade at all because they don't have access. They can't afford the fuel in the first place. And so this blockade is really a representative, sort of a symbolic move to keep the fuel away from the hands of the ruling elite, which can afford the $30 a gallon, and where the Haitian people cannot afford this. So this is really the Haitian people saying, hey, yeah, absolutely, keep this blockade in place, because what it's really doing is affecting this puppet government and these ruling elites, and we don't get any of this anyway. We don't get the scraps. We can't afford gas. We're making $5 a day. Is that kind of at the heart of this issue?
Exactly. Haitian masses live in literal sewage, in neighborhoods like La Saline and Cirque du Soleil, these complete slums that the U.S. and the oligarchs in Haiti have never cared about. And that's where they make incredible amounts of money.
I see one government car right on the line. Yeah. And I asked him, even the government car is on the line as well? He said, well, you see what's happening. That's what he said. Yeah. This is insane. This is totally crazy. Yeah. I mean, the government cars cannot have gas.
Yeah. And you're saying at the ports there's gang has control of the importation of fuel?
And that's why that was one of the main problems, because they could not get to the gas stations with the gas, because it is being blocked by some gangs.
Le gouvernement américain est excusé, mais c'est l'État américain qui mettait dans toute sa nuit-là.
Said he wanted to be sorry to put it that way, but it's the U.S. government who put Haiti in the position that it is today. U.S. government and France and Canada that actually put Haiti in the situation that it is today said that Haiti helped the U.S. fight for independence. Our blood was thrown for the sake of the independence of the U.S., for their liberty. And now this is what they return to us. So they don't respect our values. So God will punish them for what they're doing to Haiti.
And can you just outline the biggest problems in Haiti right now?
Plus gros problème que n'a confronté en Haïti qu'on y a là.
Plus gros problème, éducation, insécurité, l'État.
Education, insecurity, and the fall of states. The Haitian government is completely failed and collapsed in their duties. He believed the reasons of all of that, that's what caused a lot of migrants are leaving the country by boats and living and fleeing this country.
Haiti, and how the government move it, but they don't get rid of it.
I have a friend that used to be in the army, and he placed a GPS in one of those garbage piles, and he actually find the GPS on another garbage pile. So they remove the garbage and dump it upon another garbage in another area.
They take the garbage away, but then they'll put it in another suburb.
Exactly. They don't pay them on time. So they get discouraged on doing the job that they should be doing. We will always have this problem of pile of trash.
The U.S. and the oligarchs in Haiti have never cared about, and that's where they make incredible amounts of profit in their sweatshops and in their factories. And so suddenly, all of a sudden, we're supposed to believe that Anthony Blinken and and these oligarchs in the hills in Port-au-Prince suddenly care about the Haitian masses that are living in literal sewage. It's obvious that it's a farce, and we're going to see kind of who exactly is in power here.
So let's talk about the military invasion piece of this. Of course, a couple of weeks ago we reported Coast Guard cutter ships, now patrolling, of course, near Port-au-Prince. What is the very latest on the actual, military invasion piece of this? Boots on the ground. Now that the United Nations has given the go-ahead for this, when do we expect to see U.S. forces, actual soldiers on the ground? Do you have any insight into that? Or not like they're going to telegraph and tell us when this is happening, but what are your sources saying on this part?
Well, it was reported actually in the Miami Herald from Brian Nichols, the top State Department official for the region, that the U.S. wants a military intervention in early November. And I suspect that early November means, after November 7th, midterm elections, because it's not going to look good for Democrats and the Biden administration to be sending boots on the ground, to be getting involved in some other boondoggle in another country, particularly with how poorly, of course, the Afghanistan exit went, and the U.S. is just up to its neck in Ukraine. So I think basically right after midterm elections, we're going to see things heat up a lot, and the U.S. is just looking at any way it can to get troops in there.
So the end game, it seems, for the United States and the United Nations is to not care about the actual violent criminals, but to instead focus on the one ray of sunshine, perhaps the one ray of hope, in the opposition leader in Jimmy Cherizier, aka Barbecue, who's been blocking the fuel ports, and he is the biggest thorn in the side of the United Nations and the U.S., right? Who the United States wants to continue their sweatshop labor, wants to continue their puppet government. And is that at the heart of it? Is that the main reason for putting boots on the ground, is to try to stop him and his supporting forces?
Exactly. I mean, it obviously has nothing to do with the horrible conditions people are living in. It has obviously nothing to do with, so-called gang violence, which is real. I mean, there are numerous criminals, very violent criminals that I could point to. Izzo, leader of the 15 Seconds gang, who notorious for beheading and burning bodies and killing and kidnapping. You could look at, T. Lapli, leader of the Grand Ravine gang, who's a big kidnapper. You could look at the 400 Mao Zedong, who kidnapped 17 North American missionaries in 2021. He's not under sanctions. He's not under, he's not being talked about by Brian Nichols or the UN or anyone. So it's not about gang violence. It's about the guy who is fighting those criminals. It's about, basically Haiti's Robin Hood, who's going against, these horrible armed groups that commit vicious crimes against innocent people and making huge amounts of money doing it on behalf of the oligarchs.
In Haiti is kidnappings, right?
Yes.
I remember back in the days when there would be political turmoil in Haiti, and you would have the government that would try their very best to find a solution, and also you will find the oligarchs, perhaps with one voice, they could try to find a way and persuade the government and even the international community to do something. But the oligarchs keep their mouth shut, and none of them never get kidnapped. They keep their mouth shut, and nothing is happening. The only type of people that are being kidnapped are mostly the people in the middle class, which is now they force them to leave their own country and go to the neighborhood country, Dominican Republic. If it was not an organized crime, why they never go after those oligarchs who's bringing guns and ammunition into this country?
So it's very targeted to the middle class.
Exactly. They're trying to dismantle totally the middle class.
You were mentioning that people that get kidnapped have to sell their
Land.
their homes to...
They have to sell whatever the possession that they possess, their lands, their cars, their housing. And who's buying it from them? Not the middle class, it's the oligarchs. When all those money coming from the bank, where do you think this all money? I mean, they're asking $10,000, $1 million. Where is that money going? Do you think it goes to the ghetto? I said no. Never would a person from the ghetto will kidnap a person and they will have $10,000 or even $1 million to go to the ghetto. That would raise a big war So the money doesn't even go to the ghetto.
So most people would think that kidnappers or the people organizing the kidnapping are coming from the really desperate parts of the country, but what you're saying is it comes from the 1%.
Of course, those oligarchs who own anything, who own the banks, those people in the ghetto, they can't afford those guns. They can't even afford to eat. And how would they be able to buy those guns and ammunition?
I saw somewhere that somebody couldn't afford a bowl of soup, that they were sitting there with like a $5,000 gun. What you're saying, the guns are being handed to them by
The politicians, by the oligarchs.
I'm gonna go right here. 2 Corinthians 11:4. No marvel, right? So, hey, we're not amazed at what's going on, right? For Satan himself, right, which is our adversary, right? When you go into the word Satan, it means adversary, right? Or diablos, which means false accuser, right? So ultimately, that's what he does, man. He falsely accuses you. Himself is transformed into an angel of light, right? So one of the reasons why we're not marveling at that is because of what went on in the Maccabees, man. Right? When we got iconoclasm, right? So because of the scriptures, we don't marvel that Satan would turn himself into an angel of light. Therefore, so he could so-called put out his narrative that makes it look like he's out for justice, and in order to enslave you so-called Black, Hispanic, and Native Indians even further, right? Because those are our brothers, which are Levi, right? And which is the southern kingdom, and which they don't like Levi because Levi beat them in the Haitian revolt, right? They had a revolt and they won. But ever since, even though they won, they sanctioned them. They put taxes on them. They made them pay for the soldiers that died, which don't make sense because when have you paid us for all the people that died, right? Right? You didn't even pay them for being slaves. This is First Maccabees chapter 3 verse 47. Then they fasted that day and put on sackcloth and cast ashes upon their heads and rent their clothes, right? Talking about the kingdom of Judah, right? Judah, Benjamin, and Levi, right? Which is the southern kingdom. And laid open the book of the law, right? Which we know as the Bible, wherein the heathen had sought to paint the likeness of their image, right? Which going into that whole thing of trying to make it wherein that you have to thou shalt not abhor the Edomite now. When it used to be an Assyrian, right? You're painting yourself within the frame that really didn't belong, right? Trying to find a way that Gentiles can get in, right? So we don't marvel that Satan, which is our adversary, the Esau Edom, the self-proclaimed so-called white man, right, have transformed himself into an angel of light, right? Because where are the angels at? It's in the Bible, right? Because the Israelites are angels, man. Whether you know it or not, man. We are gods. Even who the world ignorantly called Jesus Christ says, doesn't your law say that ye are gods? Right? So, right? And then really angel just means messenger. And who's the message for? The message is for the Israelites, man. The Bible is a letter written to the Israelites. It's not written to any other nation. But when other people put their self in it, I mean, you can't not marvel that Satan transformed himself into an angel of light, because even then, this is the time of the Maccabees, when because it was Antiochus. I think it was Antiochus, because they were fighting against him. What was that? Yeah, see, now when King Antiochus, right, which was a Greek king, right, heard these things, he was full of indignation, wherefore he sent and gathered together all the forces of his realm, even a very strong army, what, to go against what, Israel, right? But through Judas Maccabeus and his brothers, they were able to conquer some of them, and was able to grab the law, the book of the law. And when they seen it, they was like, oh, they was astonished. It left them mourning, right? And they didn't go, wait a minute, Ak, you're mourning wrong. Let me go grab some black so you can mourn right. Right? I mean, even right here when it says that a guy, is a priest, they brought also the priest's garments. Right? Right? They didn't go bring them black clothing because you mourn in black. That doesn't make sense. But okay. Yeah, so this is First Maccabees chapter 3, verse 47, right? Because Judas Maccabeus at the time, this King Antiochus, at this time that they were fighting against, and the Maccabees won a couple of wars and was able to grab the book of the law, right? So I'm just going to go to the point. It says, then they fasted that day and put on sackcloth, right? And sackcloth don't mean you go put on black clothes. And cast ashes upon their heads and rent their clothes and laid open the book of the law, wherein the heathen, right, which is Esau, Edom, right, had sought to paint the likeness of their image, right, going in there and trying to put different things like thou shalt not abhor an Edomite, when it's supposed to be thou shalt not abhor an Assyrian, right? You know, these type of things, you know, part of their whole thing was being a friend of the stranger, right? So this is how they're trying to paint the likeness of their selves throughout, antiquity, right? So this is Second Maccabees chapter 6, verse 1. Not long after this, the king, right, I believe this is still Antiochus, sent an old man of Athens to compel, right, to try to convince them, right? Like you always got them little, them chocolate covered Edomites, they're, the Oreos, right? The Oreos always trying to come and convince you, right? Dark on the outside, but really, pale pasty on the inside, right? Because they're trying to sway you, to follow the ways of his oppressor, right? To compel the Jews to depart from the laws of their fathers and not to live after the laws of Yahweh, Bashem Yahweh Shai, power, and to pollute also the temple in Jerusalem and to call it the temple. See, they're trying to paint the likeness of their image. So why are you marveling that this guy is trying to make himself seem the most innocent person? And that's why they come speaking real soft and subtle, right? But the scriptures tell you about that. War is in their heart, man. It says, and to call it the temple of Jupiter, Olympus, and that in Gerizim and Garzim of Jupiter, the defender. Here go. This the part. This the point I was making, right? Because this is what they want you to do. Because that's why this whole thing is a replacement theology. Because it's taken away from who it's really for, and they're replacing it with. That's why vocab Malone it's the church. It's the church. Yeah. All of Israel is, and then you go through the scripture where it says Israel. No, yeah, I know, but wait. But because this happened, now the strangers get to come in, right? And ultimately, that's what they've been doing that, and that's ultimately what vocab is doing, painting himself into an angel of light, making it seem like he's really about a genuine thing of being an honest and a God-fearing person when he's not. He's not honest, and he's not a God-fearing person, nor any of these other Edomites or these other Israelites who follow their customs, man. Right? Because that's ultimately what they're trying to do, to get you to leave off from the laws of our fathers, man. Because ultimately that's what Abba Bibbins did, right? He turned the fathers to the sons and the sons to the fathers, man. Right? So it says, the defender of strangers, as they did desire that dwelled in the place, right? So they always did that. Why? While at the same time, pretty much what they're doing is, that's why the anti-Sim thing is out there, right? It says all the altar also was filled with profane things which the law forbid, man. And ultimately these churches are like that, man. You got some Mo, and he's head of the goddamn choir or whatever. You know what I mean? You got some goddamn Mo, and he could be a complete ordained minister, openly mold and flamed out, man. This is what they're saying. That's profane. Do you know when you go and teach, that's an altar, man? To what are you doing, man? That's profane, man. And the law forbids it, man. This does not come as you are, man. The law said you could. The Lord to the scriptures say you could repent, but you rather be repent and leave that stuff behind. right? When you come to teach, you better act like that. What it says, the scripture says you're dead to sin. So that stuff better be dead, man. If you was a so-called Mo and then you're out there teaching, that stuff better be dead, man. And if something's dead, you don't even need to be spoken of no more. You speak life, man. Right? And oh man. Neither was it lawful, right, for a man to keep Sabbath, right? And that's ultimately what they're doing, you know what I mean? Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Sunday's the Sabbath. This is that. This is that. Confusion, right? Maybe that's why people used to like to listen to, was a dude named Confucius or whatever? Confusion. Confucius is just confusion, right? You know? All these so-called philosophers and all this other BS in the world. You know what I mean? And keep Sabbath days or ancient feasts, or to profess himself at all to be a Jew. And that's ultimately what this anti-sim thing is about, man. With a replacement theology, and now it's illegal, right? We can counsel culture you for you saying that you're the Jew, that you're not Jewish, that you're the Jew. And these people in Haiti, right? Which Haiti means hell, but that's ultimately what's going on there, man. They're getting put through hell, man. And hell is not a place that you burn underground. Hell is a condition, or hell is just a grave, right? And they're putting them through a hell of a condition, right? While painting themselves as the likeness of an angel in order to go in to steal more money from them, to put them through more hell. And even their own white counterparts, so-called, self-proclaimed white counterparts, are basically throwing it out there too. It ain't like you care. We see the conditions that they live in. And that's the same thing you Jakes, you self-proclaimed black people, you African American, you black American. I mean, as if that makes sense. I'm an African American, a black American, and none of that makes sense. But somehow, I don't know. Even after you break it down to these simpletons, it's like they don't get it. You should be upset. That's some shit. You're literally calling yourself something that don't exist. And you got to hang your hat on that. Which means there really ain't a hat. And there's really not a coat rack. You're basically walking around like a mime. You know, the mime that's doing the little thing and they don't talk. And they acting like there's a door. And they might walk in and act like they're taking off a hat. And acting like they're putting a hat on a coat rack. But there ain't no fucking hat. And there ain't no hat rack or a coat rack there for you to put your hat on. But you walking around, I'm black. I'm African American. I mean, just silly, man. And then you come against the Hebrew Israelites, not black Hebrew Israelites, with just the Hebrew Israelites. In total nonsense, man. But hey, don't marvel, man. Right? Because now they're trying to go in and judge. Yeah, so this is Luke 16:8. And the Lord, right, commanded the unjust steward, right? So let's just go into that just real quick. Matter of fact, let's just go to unjust. Yeah, so this is just a real quick dictionary definition. It says not based on or behavior according to what is morally right or fair. And that's ultimately Esau, man. He never judges on what's morally right or fair, right? They make it seem fair. They make it seem kind of right. They make it seem like, yeah, you have to do these type of things because it must be law and order. But there's truly no order in the way they get down, man. And law really truly don't go out because it's really not the laws of the Most High. Though they declared in 1983, this is a Bible nation, declared the Bible over this land, and they don't go by the Bible at all, not one little bit. Yeah, so it says, same chapter, Luke 16:8, and we're going to, I guess we'll tap into unjust real quick just to kind of go over it.
Strong's G93, Arikia.
Arikia, in judgment of a judge, unrighteousness of heart and life. Oh wow. Hey, if that ain't Esau, man. Yeah, man, that's him 100%. A deed violating law, right? And they do that all day, every day. And just act of an unrighteousness, right? And that's Esau, man, completely. Yeah, this one, Stewart.
Strong's G 3623, Akainamas.
Yeah, like Orkamene, Orkanamas, right, over the whole world, right? Orkanamas, right, or yeah, because there's 3 words to world, which is Orkamene, cosmos, and age, right? So this is talking about the Orkamene or Orkanamas, right, which is over the entire world, which that's what Esau has, right? And at this time, anybody who's ruling, in the world, because the world was made by God and for the Israelites, but it's made by the law, by the Most High God, Yahweh Bashemel Shai, through His only begotten Son. And then that's why the Lord said He will put in rulership whoever He will decide to put in rulership. And anyone who will rule, during the Egyptians, during the Babylonians, through the Medo-Persians, through the Greeks, the Romans, and then we're in the second leg of Rome. Those are all stewards, man. But they were unjust stewards. But there was nobody more unjust as a steward than Esau. But this is his position right now on earth as a let's see it again, how to say it again.
Strong's G 3623, Akainamas.
Orkanamas, right? Orkamene, yeah, over the whole entire world. He's the ruler. And it says the manager of household or of household affairs, right? They're just supposed to do the affairs of the world. But then when they're doing it, it's unjust, man. You're not judging things rightly. You're not rightly dividing the word of truth and then judging by that. You coming up with your own things, coming with your own he's making his own way. Right? Making himself seem just, turn and transform himself into an angel of light, saying that he's this, saying he's that. But at the end of the day, it's going to be proven that he's just the devil, man. That's why the brother was saying God is going to judge you at the end, man. You think you just got away? Right? Judgment is coming. Right? It says steward, manager. See, you're just supposed to manage this, and you're in mismanagement right now, man. You're not managing this right. Pollution in the air, chemtrails in the air, GMO foods. There's a goddamn global pandemic. You're not managing this right. How can it be a global pandemic? Let alone even an epidemic. It shouldn't be nothing going on. You're supposed to be managing. You should be managing this thing right, man. Right? The Lord said, do not abhor the herbs, man. And we believe you set up to kill Dr. Saban. And I mean, that's no here nor there. We have no proof, but we believe you did. But he didn't abhor the herbs. So at the end of the day, man, I mean, yeah, see right here. Superintendent, whether freeborn or as was utterly the case, and Fred a freedman or slave. See, and that's ultimately what you rule over, man. You rule over free men and slaves right now. Whom had head of the house, right? So, that's what you are, man. There's free people, and there's slaves, and there's all that in between, and then ultimately you ready to clamp down with the digital currency to enslave the whole entire world. So there ain't gonna be any free or enslaved. It's just gonna be just slaves, right? So you're mismanaging the Lord's house. Yeah, so the Lord, Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai, commanded the unjust steward because he had done wisely for the children of this world in their generation is wiser than the children of light, right? Because what? You knowing, right, that you got but a short time. And you knowing, right, because you're wise as Daniel, according to the scriptures, right? I mean, and these so-called Black, Hispanic, and Native Indians, they were taught lies for so freaking long. And even when you're presenting, and they got Stockholm Syndrome, and even when you present them with the truth, a lot of them are not getting it. That's why 2/3 are going to have to go. But it says, so, because this is what you know, right here. So when evening was come, the Lord of the vineyard, right? Yahweh, man, the vineyard is what? The world, right? This world. It's going to be time for harvest pretty soon. The angels are coming to reap, man. Right? We see the angels came to camp almost every weekend. I think last weekend I didn't see them. Maybe some brothers seen it. But man, the last couple of weeks, man, there's been chariots, at least 1 to 2 chariots, and then one time it was like a fleet of chariots. right? The first time I ever seen chariots, it was a fleet of them. That was my first time ever seeing them, and it was a fleet of them. It was awesome. So Esau seeing that because he got his all that equipment, all this technology, his military, right? So you know what's going on, right? You wise as Daniel, right? Supposedly. Yeah, but Daniel had enough sense to fear Yahweh Bashim Shai, but you don't. But it says, so when evening came, the Lord of the vineyard, right, which is talking about the whole world, saith unto his steward, call the laborers and give them their hire, beginning from the last unto the first. And ultimately, that's where we're going into, man. And you know that. You're trying to prevent prophecy. You're trying to go in and trying to disrupt, but really, it's going to cause more Israelites to get behind Haiti and to get behind that, like a lot of Israelites is getting behind Kyrie. This is Matthew 20 and 16, because basically the Lord's going through a parable. Who the world we call Jesus Christ, going through a parable, and that's why it's written in red. But he's going through a parable, and at the end of that parable, which Esau knows that. I mean, the only one that don't know that is you so-called Black, Hispanic, and Native Indians. You quote this, but you don't know the times you're living in, man. So the last shall be first, right? And also he's giving you the understanding of that when he's saying give them their pay. And start at the last unto the beginning, right? So the last shall be first, and the first shall be last. For many be called, but few are chosen, right? So this is 2 Ezra chapter 8, verse 1. And he answered me, saying, the Most High, which is Yahweh, there was only begotten Son, made the world, which is Yahweh, Bashem Yahweh Shai, the Most High, have made this world for many. So this world, many are called. Many were called to live in this world and be in this world, whatever, what have you. But the world to come for few, man. Only that, compared to was it 8 billion people, when you're dealing with the 144,000 and the unnumberable multitude, even that multitude being like a number it's kind of hard to number, but compared to the 7 something billion people they're gonna die, or whatever, 8 billion or 6 billion or whatever, how many ever billion, that's a lot of people that's gonna die, man. You know what I mean? Because it's very possible that's what it is, man. Like the world's almost 8 billion people, and the Lord might save 1 billion out of that 8 billion people, which is pretty much the equivalent of saving the 8 persons and killing the rest of the world, man. The Lord say the days will be as the days of Noah, man. Right? This is 2 Ezra chapter 6, verse 8. And he said unto me, from Abraham unto Isaac, when Jacob and Esau were born of him, Jacob's hand held fast the heel of Esau, right? Which basically means he didn't let it go, right? Grabbed it and didn't let it go. For Esau is the end of this world, right? Because this world is meant for a lot of people. It's everybody's in this world. The profane, the the righteous, right? It's a lot of people in this world. For Esau's the end of the world. So like it, Esau's the end of the world, right? Which is dealing with an age, right? Like we went into it. Cosmos, Orkamene, and age. So it's the end of this age, right? And Jacob is the beginning, right? Because it said, it said what? What did it say? Begin at the end. Give them the reward. Give them their pay, but begin at the last. So Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth, man, because Jacob is last on this earth. You so-called Black, Hispanic, and Native Indians, you're last. Last hired, first fired. Your women are raped, murdered. They're missing, and no one gives a damn. You can go into Haiti, kill the president, and knowing that those people went back to the CIA and the FBI and all sorts of government and killed this man during the their pandemic, right? Because they're not in because the guy said he didn't want to push that vaccination, the icky vicky through his community. So all of a sudden he ended up dead, right? So you're not managing your unjust steward. You're not managing the earth correctly, man. So it's time for you to go. It is what it is. It's time for new management. So, and the hand of a man is betwixt the hill and the hand. See, and that's why our father, which is Jacob, right? Which he wrestled with an angel, and the angel changed his name from Jacob to Israel. And even then he held fast. He didn't want to let the angel go. For what? Ultimately a blessing, man. And that's ultimately what our father was hanging on his hill for. So we could receive the kingdom, for the blessing, man. You know what I mean? Other questions Ezra's asked us not, right? So this is Revelation chapter 13, verse 16. And he calleth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their forehead, right? And ultimately that's what's coming, man. That bioeconomy, man. You're gonna have to be implanted with the bioeconomy, man. Right? In order to what? And know that no man might buy or sell save he that had the mark or the number of the name of the beast or the number of his name, man. Right? He calls us all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their forehead, and that no man might buy or sell save he that had the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name, right? And that bioeconomy implant is coming around the corner, right? Revelation chapter 12, verse 10. And I heard a loud voice saying in heaven, now is come salvation and strength and the kingdom of our power, Yahweh, Bashem Yahweh Shai, and his power, right, of his Hamashiach. Yeah. So this is Revelation chapter 12, verse 10. I heard a loud voice saying in heaven, now is come salvation and strength, right? Because, hey, The last shall be first, and the first is going to be last. Now has come salvation and strength and the kingdom of our power, which is Yahweh, and the power of his Hamashiach, right? Through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai, for the accuser, right? Ultimately, that's what we're saying. Devil means accuser, right? The accuser of our brethren, which is the devil, the self-proclaimed so-called white man, is cast down, which accused, right? The devil, the self-proclaimed so-called white man, them before our power, Yahweh, Bashem Yahweh Shai, night and day. And they overcame him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony, right? Well, we're out there on the highways and the byways saying that we're the Jews, right? That they want to shut you up by saying you're anti-Semite, right? Which is not really a word, right? Shum or Shem is one of the three sons of Noah, and they had plenty of children, right? Not just the children out of Abraham or Shemites or Shemites. There were other kids before Abraham, man. So it doesn't begin to make sense for you to do that. But regardless, we overcame him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony, right? Being out to the highways, the byways, your daily devotion, man. I mean, because sometimes most of the things you're doing, people don't see what you do. I mean, when you do things, it should prick your heart. You do something wrong, it should make you feel bad, sad. You mess up, then you repent. Get back on the path, man. See, unlike a lot of your conscience is seared. You do something and you don't get sad about it. You don't feel like, dang, I messed up. Like, nah. You're still proud, you're arrogant, all these different things. But the minute of the Lord, man, when you mess, you're going to feel down, you're going to feel bad. You're going to be like, oh, wow, I need to get this correct. You're going to pray, ask the Lord for forgiveness. You know, those are the things, man. Whether someone's looking or not, man, this is serious business, man. And they love not their lives unto death, man, because ultimately we're going to die for this truth, man. And that's what Esau didn't want to do. He was, you know, he wanted that lentil soup or whatever, man. Right? So therefore, rejoice ye heavens and ye that dwell in them, right? Because it's time for what? It's time for their kingdom to end, our kingdom begin, man. So it's time to rejoice, man. Woe, because it's going to be their destruction. Esau's destruction, and he knows this, man. More than you children of the children of the light, which are you Israelites, you so-called Black, Hispanic, and Native Indian, you are the children of the light. Or at least you're supposed to be. And you should know. But the children of this world, of Esau, basically Esau, or the ones that's in his wickedness, they know what's going on. The LeBrons, the Kobe, I mean not Kobe, Salakia. The LeBrons, the Shaqs, what's it? Charles Barkley. That's why they're trying to defend them, man. And they're hoping they could use their so-called blackness and their stardom to keep you asleep, right? Right along with these devils, man. Right, the accusers, the false accusers, man, devils, man. Right. Woe unto the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea, for the devil, right, the false accuser, that's what it means, is come down unto you. And what was they putting in, projecting in the media and the newspaper? Haiti is violent and the gangs and da 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 blah 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 blah. But then come to find out, you're the biggest gang there. You're the one who's funding guns and this and that and people being kidnapped. You're funding it. Now the false accuser is coming down unto you, you so-called Black, Hispanic, and Native Indians, man. Having great wrath, because he knoweth that he had but a short time, man. Yeah, it's time for him to get out of the throne, out of his stewardship, out of his rulership, because he's mismanaging the planet, and it's time for him to go. So call Volume Yahweh, Bashem Yahweh Shai, Bashem Rakal Kadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who were well. Salutation to the Akim and the four winds preaching in truth and sincerity, risking their lives more now than ever. The hopeful elect, the elect, Shalom to the Israelite foreigners whose phenotype may look like another nation, but bloodline goes back to Israel and have come back to the fold. Shalom to you sisters, you Aqua who listen and learn under your husband, which is your spiritual leader, with meekness and with silence. Shalom, Ababa Ball.